I call this meeting of the Brine Independent School District to order. Let the record show that a quorum of board members is present, that this meeting has been duly called, and that this notice of this meeting has been posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meeting Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 5551. I wish to extend a warm welcome to everyone present. Citizens may make comments about topics relevant to district business, but topics should be limited to 5 minutes. Comments concerning specific students or personnel will be heard in closed session, and I ask that you turn off the sound on all electronic devices. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to the Texas, one state under God, one indivisible. Anatole is the best!
Are there any citizens' comments? No. Okay. All right, our first spotlight is for the Elementary Teacher of the Month, who will be introduced by Principal Amy Thoman. That's not Amy.
This is actually Mackenzie Anderson, Miss Kronovic's granddaughter, and she's also a 4th grade Johnson Jaguar. So I thought it would be appropriate if she read her the nomination. You want to read it? Okay, I'll read it right here.
I think we can all agree to the phrase, one for the history books, has been the first thing that comes to mind when anyone mentions the 2019 through 2020, 2020 through 2021, and 2021 through 2022 school years. In the eye of an educator, one of the stressors, aka chapters, in those history books is certain around 3 words: closing achievement gaps. Those 3 words are ones that many teachers lay down and wake up thinking about. Words behind the determination to go above and beyond. 3 words that encourage teachers to remain unstoppable, and in Ms. Kronovic's room, words that students believe in. As the year started, Ms. Kronovic was committed to growth for herself and her students. Direct ELA instruction was the content area that Ms. Kronovic had not previously taught. Explicitly, what she did know was how to establish a safe and structured teaching environment. This laid the foundation for her and her students to engage in the learning process. Relationships are how students learn. On more than one occasion, I have walked into Ms. Kronovic's room and have seen the unstoppable in action. For example, once the round of DBAs were completed, Ms. Kronovic immediately got out the pens and highlighters to begin analyzing student data. She was determined to answer the what's next, and knew she could do it alone. Ms. Kronovic needed her students. With that being said, individual students' folders were created with bar graphs showcasing student growth. Yes, the student growth folders are incredible, but what's even more awesome is how 4th grade students are taking the reins. As I listened in on one conference, Ms. Kronovic was brainstorming in a student about her areas of reinforcement and refinement. After the student colored in her bar graphs, not only did I immediately hear, "Oh wow," but then heard questions being asked such as, do you think by the end of the year you can achieve that? Oh yes, definitely. Let's change that. Tell me what we could do to get there. What kinds of things do you learn in class that can help us get there? Did you hear the words let's, we, and us? That is why Miss Kranovic is Johnson's Teacher of the Month. It's her dedication, relationships, commitment, mountain determination, and unstoppable attitude that showcases the climbing to the top of a mountain. May be hard, but we will get there together. This type of safe environment for students has them asking what's next as they anticipate the next challenge with the same growth mindset that is modeled for them.
That's Ms. Kranovic, so come on.
That's a hard act to follow, too.
Thank you, Kinsey. Thank you, Ms. Dillman.
Wonderful.
So one more picture.
David.
Oh, that was a big old adolescent sigh in the background. Did you hear it? Rolling of eyes. Wait, we have flowers.
And I believe next up we have the secondary teacher of the month, and I apologize, I got caught in the traffic.
For October, and who will be introduced by Principal Kimberly Giesensland. And then November.
Okay, SFA Middle School proudly nominates Ms. Casey Rogers as Teacher of the Month for October. Energetic, student-centered, and caring are three adjectives that best describe Ms. Casey Rogers. Ms. Rogers constantly strives to provide her students with both academic and social-emotional support. A firm believer in the heart of the student, she makes it a priority to get to know her students and build positive relationships. Ms. Rogers is one of our amazing 8th grade social studies teachers who makes history both interesting and relevant to her students by bringing to life many historical figures and events. Casey is most deserving of Bryan ISD's October Teacher of the Month because she pours her heart and soul into Stephen F. Austin Middle School and the students. Ms. Rogers has one student who rarely talks during class. However, she took this as an opportunity to really get to know that student. She soon realized that this student best expresses himself and shows their learning through artwork. So Ms. Rogers provided the student with an art book and art pencils. Since then, the student has created numerous drawings related to history as well as his personal interest. This is just one example of how Ms. Rogers builds positive relationships with her students and works to meet the needs of all of her students. Ms. Rogers strives to engage her students in her history class. She went above and beyond to interest her students in the week they studied the Salem witch trials. She dressed in full costume, designed her classroom, used special lighting and special visuals on her screen to get them excited about learning. Students that were not her students wanted to go in and learn. Her enthusiasm for her subject is infectious, not only for the students, but for the staff as well. Ms. Rogers is also a true team player and enjoys collaborating with her colleagues. She never hesitates to jump in with the curriculum to create engaging activities and lessons. She is also always willing to help in any aspect the campus may need. During her personal conference time, she very regularly comes to the office to check in with the administration and the front office staff just to see if there's anything she can help with. She is also a huge fan of our students and their extracurricular activities, and you can often find her in the stands in the crowd as she is present at many events as she can be this year and last year. In addition to being an amazing teacher, Ms. Rogers is pursuing her master's degree to become an educational diagnostician. This is another example of how Ms. Rogers truly cares about each and every student. Ms. Casey Rogers is a huge asset for Stephen F. Austin Middle School, and she embodies what Bryan ISD's essential 8 characteristics are all about. Ms. Rogers' dedication, kindness, and hard work are exceptional. We are extremely proud and honored to have her be our nomination for Bryan ISD's October Teacher of the Month.
Congratulations. And next up, we'll have Principal Tommy Roberts come and introduce the November Teacher of the Month.
Good evening. So we're here to recognize Karina Meza as the Bryan ISD Secondary Teacher of the Month. So Brine Collegiate, the staff and students there are proud to nominate Mrs. Meza as the Bryan ISD Secondary Teacher of the Month. This is her 6th year at Brine Collegiate in the high school world, and she taught elementary bilingual before that. And her passion for foreign language is just as strong today as it was back in 2016 when she started with us. She's always jumped in head first and is willing to help out with a genuine smile on her face. Mrs. Meza's worked very hard to transition from the elementary world to the high school world. She spent several years as the bilingual teacher at Henderson Elementary before stepping away from the teaching profession for just a short time. And it wasn't long after she stepped away that she began to miss being with kids, and she longed to be back in the classroom. And as luck would have it, Brine Collegiate needed a Spanish teacher at the time. So we contacted Danielle Legg, who was the principal at Henderson at that point, and asked her about Karina. And she said that God just dropped gold in our laps. And if we didn't hire her, we would be crazy. So, and here we are, right? We also want to take this opportunity to talk about Karina's work ethic. Karina has worked incredibly hard to hone her craft over the duration of her career. And it shows in her classroom. Her genuine passion and incredibly richness for the Spanish language is a tangible and real thing in her class, whether it's with her beginning Spanish 1 kids or her advanced placement Spanish class. She lesson plans carefully to make sure students understand the material. She creates activities to keep a high level of engagement in her room over the duration of a block period. And the way she transitions from one activity to the next in one class period is magic. It was just a few days ago that Karina was fully decked out in a traditional Spanish dress with makeup, facial jewels, and a beautiful ornate black dress to celebrate Dia de los Muertos, which is the Day of the Dead, to help students gain a deeper understanding of the significance of the traditional Spanish holiday for the remembrance of friends and family members who've passed away. Mrs. Meza has also found ways to enrich the education of students at Collegiate. Not long after she started at Brine Collegiate, she was approached about sponsoring SHIP, which is the Society of Hispanic Professional Engineers from Texas A&M. Yet again, she jumped in with a can-do attitude and said yes to sponsoring the SHIP chapter at Brine Collegiate. And since starting it up in 2016, this group has grown to just a few students to a jam-packed room during the monthly SHIP meetings at Collegiate in the 200 hallway. She's been instrumental in helping SHIP empower kids at Brine Collegiate to realize their fullest potential and to impact the world through STEM awareness, access, and support. interesting about STEM with a Spanish teacher, right? Karina's hard work has consistently demonstrated what it takes to be successful in and out of the classroom. She's an incredibly positive role model for all of our students and a tremendous asset to the Brine collegiate community, and she's a Bryan ISD treasure. Her genuine warmth and care for her kids is unmatched by few educators that I've seen in my career. It's for these reasons that we are proud to have Mrs. Meza for the Bryan ISD Secondary Teacher of the Month for November 2021.
All right, thank you. And next up, we'll move down into the standing committee updates. First up is City and School.
Did you? Yes. And I forgot my notes. Just wait.
We'll chime in together on this. Our city, a lot of members of the city and several of our members get together monthly and we discuss things that are very tied to both entities. And this month, which we have been doing lately, we meet at the Blue Bistro, which is it's the old Blue Cafeteria, if you're a former Viking and went to school there. But now the culinary arts students and that department serve us in this meeting at noon, and it is unbelievable. The decorations, the homemade food, I mean, it's just amazing, and the students are friendly and wonderful and proud to be there. So we get to kind of show that off to the city administration. This week we talked a whole lot about how the progress of Midtown Park is going, and we know that when Big Shot opens and when the Legends Event Center opens, Big Shots particularly has said they want to hire our students. They want to, even our culinary, they want our kids to come part-time and work for them. They're real big on that. So we're really looking forward to that agreement. And what was?
A couple of other events that we had going on in the city, Holiday Lights, I believe, maybe December 2nd.
Oh, and we're having the downtown parade for the city of Bryan. You know, the Brazos Valley Christmas Parade has been canceled for this year, but downtown Brine Parade is still on, and it is December the 9th. Is that right? Right. And BISD has all of our fine arts students will be there, and the administration has a float or something on wheels that we will be representing. It's always so much fun.
And I also believe in downtown Bryan is the Lights on November 19th, I believe, as well. That's Friday at 5.
Friday night. Dr. or
Those were the main things, and of course, they talked about the 150th year celebration, because we were leading up to that, and we just had most of those events, so that was exciting. And of course, they have a lot of interest in what's happening in Bryan ISD when it comes to our 2020 $175 million bond and all of those projects. So they're so pleased to see the progress with the Merrill Green Stadium fencing. We're moving dirt over at the site of the intermediate, so we always give them a big update with that, and they're just as happy as can be with the progress we're making there.
All right. There's no questions. We'll move on to the intergovernmental report.
Yes, intergovernmental. We met today, and we were given a presentation from the transportation department. And to be able to look and see over the course of the next 5 years, the way the streets and the highways are going to be looking is just unbelievable. But they've had funding, $5.3 billion on some streets, and they're looking at getting more funding to be able to make more bicycle routes, more pedestrian safety, but
Bless you.
the pathways, the designs of these roads, there's something like you don't even see in Houston or Dallas. I think they're bringing something to Bryan College Station that no other city in the state has. So I think we're piloting a lot of those new projects. We received a COVID update for the city. The numbers are low. The number of cases in the hospital are low. So that was a good thing to hear, though I hear it every day, but to be able to share that with the community, that the numbers are going down, the number increasing on the people that are getting vaccinated for the first time, as well as the boosters and the youth. And we also talked a little bit about what the communities are doing. We had a presentation from the public health school from A&M, and they're working on their 3-year project that they do every 3 years. And they went and asked a lot of questions. A lot of the representatives there were able to give them input on about the city, about what the positive is as well as the negative. And so we look forward to getting all of that information wrapped up in a report, and it should be coming out to us sometime the beginning of February, mid-February. And that'll be interesting to see because they use that report, I found out, to determine in the rural areas if there's enough money or if it's justified to put medical facilities there or the services that are needed in these smaller communities. So we look forward to getting that report to be able to see, and there was discussion about the schools, very positive things on what we have to offer. Ms. Waller, College Station was there. They didn't toot their horn, but Ms. Waller made sure everybody knew everything from A to Z that was being offered in Bryan ISD. So we look forward to seeing that report.
Thank you. And if there's no other questions or comments, we'll move down to the interim superintendent report.
Okay, good evening. I apologize, I have a few slides here because when Mr. LeBlanc and I sat down to talk about some of the great things happening in the district, we realized that we could go on for several hours. There are so many things to share. So I'll start with a pretty recent announcement. One of our Brine High School football standouts, senior linebacker Nick Caraway, was recently named as a All-American high school player. This is a first in the history of Bryan ISD, so we're very excited about that. This means that he will play in the annual East versus West All-American Bowl matchup, which is on January 8th in 2022, in the Alamo Dome in San Antonio. This bowl game will actually be nationally televised live on NBC at 1 o'clock that day, so stay tuned. We'll remind you as we get closer. And it will actually feature the nation's top 100 high school players. So we're very excited of Nick and the season that he just had. Sticking with our athletes, we have 5 more Brine High School Viking seniors who recently chose their schools, and they're going to take their talent to compete at the next level. We had senior Sailor Tadaro, who signed a few days ago to pole vault at Sam Houston State University. Eric Perez is taking his baseball talent to the University of Houston. Mason Ruiz is also taking his baseball talent and staying locally to play for the Texas A&M Aggies. Alex Rodriguez will play softball for Blinn College, and Kylie Hernandez is going to play softball at San Jacinto College. And then moving on to fine arts. Again, we had so many things to share, so it was hard to narrow the focus, but we wanted to give you a little bit of information about our Bryan High School art students. They were just recently afforded the opportunity to hold an art exhibition at the gallery, which is a professional art gallery. This is just another example of the many talented students that we have here in Bryan ISD. And then something that's a little new and different, the Brazos Valley Promise is a program sponsored by the Texas A&M University, and they selected students in the Brazos Valley, including Davila Middle School and SFA Middle School. These are 8th grade students, and there were specific criteria for them to be selected So if they finish the program and meet the criteria for admissions, they will receive a full 4-year scholarship to Texas A&M University. So as 8th graders, they'll participate in this program, and they'll be afforded opportunities such as what to expect when you're a university student, how to navigate the admissions process, and many other items that will be important to the students and family throughout the journey. So more information will be forthcoming about that. So we're very excited for our students. Also recently at Rudder High School, the CTE criminal justice teacher, Miss Felicia Thompson, took learning to a whole new level. She transformed her classroom into a courtroom. Several of us attended that day and saw that Miss Thompson was the judge, and the students who never left their role, they took it very serious. They had the defendant, prosecutor, defense attorney, a bailiff, witnesses, jurors, and they went through an entire trial. It was incredible, and what an opportunity. I believe the word on the street after that is that everyone in the school wants to take this criminal justice court and be a part of that. Moving on, we recently had our October Show Up and Win. This is wildly popular now. Many people actually tune in and watch it live. With 3 $1,000 winners. Amy Grismala is a 5th grade teacher at Rayburn, winning $1,000. Darwin McDowell from Transportation, and Steely Smith, an 8th grade math teacher at SFA, all won the $1,000 drawing. Next, we had $500 HEB gift certificates. We had a pre-K teacher, Mandy Berlin, win a gift card to HEB, working at Neal Elementary. Also in pre-K, a bilingual teacher at Kemp Elementary, and a supervisor for child nutrition services, Jillian Wagnon. So congratulations to the 3 winning the $500. And then the final category is $100 gift cards. So we had Brittany Lopez Tirado, representing our food service department at Henderson, winning $100. We had Denise Kirsten, representing the technology department, winning a J. Cody's certificate, and a 4th grade bilingual teacher at Fannin, Miss Maria Lopez, won a Cafe Capri gift card. Again, this was for the Show Up and Win in the month of October. And another special event that just happened was we conducted a Realtor Tour. Several of the local realtors in town expressed interest in learning more about Bryan ISD. So we had them meet us at Rudder High School, and they watched the Rangerettes and Voxcore perform. They also toured several of our CTE classrooms at Rudder. And then they boarded a school bus, and Mr. LeBlanc and some of his team members took them around the district. We met out at C-Tech, gave them a tour of several classrooms there. They traveled to Jane Long to see a Kickstart classroom, then made their way to SFA to Mr. Kuna's engineering classroom. And the grand finale was at Brine High School in the Bistro, where they experienced the culinary students' delicious meal. And they saw the Vocal Legacy perform and heard from our IB students. This was a terrific way to show firsthand all the wonderful opportunities in Bryan ISD. And I saw them taking copious notes, so I'm sure they're going to make sure and share that with parents who are contemplating purchasing homes in our district. And then another special event. This is the 2nd annual Habitat for Humanity Trick or Treat event. Several churches and just different entities showed up to pass out candy to the kids. And for the 2nd year in a row, 2 students from Brine Collegiate High School volunteered to distribute candy and meet with the kids throughout the day. But we noticed these 2 kids took it upon themselves to promote Brine Collegiate High School all day long. They met with parents, they talked to students, they shared firsthand experiences, and they were actually recruiting parents and students to enroll their kids at Collegiate. So they were the epitome of ambassadors for Bryan ISD and Collegiate. So Mr. Roberts, you should be very proud of them. And then finally, Meet Anna. This is something that Mr. LeBlanc's department is doing with our current and former students to talk a little bit about our school district and to share firsthand about the opportunities that she had. So Mr. LeBlanc, if you want to.
Meet Anna.
Hi, I'm Anna.
This is the hand she uses to quilt blankets for newborn babies. The smile she gets when thinking about being the first person in her family to go to college. The feat she uses to walk across a Bryan ISD stage, receiving a high school diploma with 58 college credit hours. That gave her a head start at Texas A&M University. She did it all in Bryan ISD.
More choices, more opportunities.
So that's Anna, and there are many more just like her that have a great story to tell about all the opportunities we offer. So any questions for me about anything I've shared?
Mr. Roberts, so 58 credit hours, how much is that in money? How much is that? I mean, I know I'm putting you on the spot, but.
I mean, we tell families it's approximately $20,000 worth of tuition, but that's all depending on where you wind up. I mean, I'm going to assume safely that at being at AVM, that's probably a little bit more than 20 grand.
That is just so amazing.
All right, thank you. And with that, we will move down to items for discussion and or action, consent agenda.
I move approval of all the items listed on the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Have a motion by Ms. Binford and a second by Ms. Dwayne. If there is no further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries as moved. And we will move on down to action item 7. And first up is business services, and A1 is consider approval for the sale of surplus vehicles. And I have to, again, apologize for being late, but this was sitting on my desk. We might need to archive this vehicle somewhere if that's the only vehicle that we need to take action on this evening.
Correct. And this is, this is something we do, try to do once or twice a year to try to move some of our surplus, equipment, buses, those kind of things that we haven't ever done. But tonight's, or that we don't use anymore, but tonight's a little different because normally board policy says if something has a value greater than $5,000 that the board has to take action to approve a sale of that. And so tonight we have the one item on that. It's a vintage electric utility cart is what it was is termed as. So someone told me it's an old golf cart.
I thought it was our parade float.
So, but anyway, that sold on the Swico auction, online auction for $5,560. Then the other items are some buses, 14 to 28 years old, some other miscellaneous equipment that we had not used for a while, and we're just trying to clear out some of this as we get ready to transition some point into the new maintenance and transportation facility, so cleaning up some of that.
I move approval of the sale of surplus vehicles as presented. Second.
I have a motion by Ms. Dwayne and a second by Dr. Harlan.
No,
Or
by Dr. Davis.
By Dr. Davis, I apologize. If there's no further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries as moved. And we will move down to item 7A2, discuss and consider approval of a purchase over $50,000.
Yes, thank you, sir. This item, just a real quick background on this one. As we progressed through the bond steering committee and went through that process for the 2020 bond, these are items that were included in that process as we went through. And then there was legislation that came out that changed what was allowable and not allowable. So rather than do a separate referendum for this, these items were pulled from the 2020 bond at that time. And there was some others we went through with a phase 1 and phase 2, and we were using 2019 bond funds, which actually was a bond prior to the legislation, which is allowed. But tonight, this is the second phase of these that are being brought forward, and bringing the things up to specs at Rudder Performing Arts. And if we have questions and things of what they're doing in that, I have Mr. Pat Corbett, Mr. Jacob Justice from the Fine Arts Department here tonight as well to answer any questions on that we may have. And again, this is upgrades to the Rudder Performing Arts that would be funded with the 2019 bond.
Well, you had mentioned that that's previously that's I guess you could say rather precious money because we're not going to be able to do that again in the future unless they change the law again as far as being able to use funds from a bond for the type of bond we normally have. So I guess my only question to you is, I guess you're looking ahead as best you can to make sure we're going to be okay with any other significant projects? I mean, I have no clue as to where we are really in terms of other things that might be on the horizon of a similar nature.
Yeah, I would say that this is one of the items that is very needed. It also brings the Rudder pack up to the Bryan ISD pack, so they're complementing or similar type for both groups. So one group does not have better than the other one as well. And just mainly upgrades. There's some safety features in here, but a lot of that was done with the phase one as well. But I think that this is very needed and something that would do the district very good to move ahead with.
Well, I'm just trying, my question really has to do with, do you anticipate any other major items along those lines that also needs to be done that we should be considering? I'm not opposed to this in the least, but I'm just wondering where we are with regard to those 2019 bonds in terms of other similar type projects. We have anything else coming down the chute?
I mean, not in the near immediate needs that we have at this time. Of course, there's always things that are coming up from time to time, but this will get us in pretty good shape with the fine arts, and there's still roughly, I believe, about $1.2 million left over from the 2019 bond after this. So there will be some available funds for other things that would come up at this time.
Thank you.
I move approval of the Rudder Performing Arts Center upgrades, Phase 2, in the amount of $355,507.47 to be performed by Covenant Communications as presented.
Second.
Have a motion by Ms. Dwayne and a second by Ms. Binford. There's no further discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries as moved. And next up, we consider approval of purchase over $50,000 for the replacement of chilled and hot water piping at Jones Elementary.
Yes, sir. And this is an item as we continue to work through the mini storm damages that we had. This goes back to the May 27, 2020. So this has been a while in the making and getting these things worked out and brought up to date, as so to speak. But as we've gone through, this is one that the insurance has looked at and processed, and we have the 3 quotes that were brought up, and the insurance has signed off on going with the company that's recommended there, and that price. So that will be funded again with the insurance claim from the 2020 hailstorm.
I move approval of the chilled and hot water pipe replacement at Jones Elementary in the amount of $221,520 as presented.
Second.
Have a motion by Mr. Stasny and a second by Ms. Binford. There's no further discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries as moved. And we will move down to 7A4, discuss and consider approval of a sign-on bonus for bus drivers with CDL credentials.
Yeah, thank you, sir. So I have Ms. Julie Johnson here tonight with me as well to talk about this one. We've met with Warren Lanphier, the Director of Transportation, and have discussed with various groups and administration the possibility to do something like this. So I'll let Julie talk about it for a moment.
Sure. So this is like Kevin Beesaw said, that like similar districts have done already, is offering a $1,000 sign-on bonus. We do have rules associated with that sign-on bonus. For example, you have to be a first-time hire, is how you would qualify. You have to be CDL certified and Texas certified to drive a school bus. So we're looking for those people who are route ready. They would give them the $500 on their first check, but then they'd get their second check of $500, 6 months of continuous employment. They also would have to be in good standing. But the reason why we decided to move this way is right now we are primarily hiring people who do not have their CDL, and it's really worked out well for us. We bring them in and we train them, but we pay them for their time here while being trained, which was kind of a new idea a couple of years ago. But all that training, depending on the level of the driver, the needs, what they may come in knowing already or not knowing anything when they start with us, costs us about 120 hours worth of training, which is about $1,300. So really this, if we can find drivers that are ready to hop on a bus after just a little training, that initial getting to them, through all the processes, it really will save us, or at least be kind of a net zero for us to move this direction. Anyway, that's why we're kind of looking for this sign-on option.
How short are we now?
Today, Warren was the only one not driving. So it varies from day to day. Mondays and Fridays tend to be the most difficult. It has gotten better with the COVID numbers dropping. But we would love to have about 20 more drivers right now to be real comfortable. Back where we were 2 years ago.
Okay.
Would make us really happy.
Thank you.
I move approval of a sign-on bonus for bus drivers with CDL credentials as presented.
Second.
Have a motion by Dr. Harland and a second by Ms. Waller. If there's no further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries as moved. And thank you. And at this point in time, we will move down to local governance. And first up, we have the administration of the oath of office for individuals elected to Bryan ISD Board of Trustees for single member district place 4, single member district place 5, the 1-year unexpired term, and at large place 7.
Cameras are getting really close. I know. But time's up and signed in. We didn't have all that.
In the name and by the authority of the state of Texas, I, Ruth Waller, do solemnly swear that I will faithfully execute.
Do solemnly swear that I will faithfully execute
The duties of the office
of
Bryan ISD Board of Trustees
Bryan ISD Board of Trustees
of the state of Texas,
and
will to the best of my ability preserve and protect and defend the Constitution and laws of the United States. And of this state.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Would you please raise your hand and repeat after me? In the name of the state and by the authorities, and by the authority of the state of Texas, I do solemnly swear that I will faithfully execute the duties of the office of Bryan ISD Board of Trustees of the state of Texas, and will to the best of my ability preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution and the laws of the United States and of this state. So help me God. Congratulations. You, Mr. McCall.
You don't have to say that.
In the name and by the authority of the state of Texas,
I, Mark McCall,
do solemnly swear
that
I will faithfully execute
the duties of the office
of Bryan ISD Board of Trustees of the state of Texas, and will to the best of my ability preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution
and defend the Constitution
and the laws of the United States
and the laws of the United States
and of this state.
and of this state.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations, sir. Thank you.
All right. And now we're moving on into consideration and possible action to approve an executive search service agreement for the superintendent search. And I want to take a few minutes to set this up, and I know some board members had some questions, and I was not here earlier to answer those. At our board retreat, our team of 8 training a number of weeks ago, we discussed really kind of our next steps within the superintendent search. And one of the goals was to make sure that it was transparent, that we wanted to make sure we had community input, much like we had in the last one. And the community had a chance, and that community is both our learning community here at Bryan ISD, so faculty, staff, students, board members, etc., as well as the community at large, and within other civil leaders within Bryan, and at the same time, parents, obviously, and those that the school district touches and impacts. And so within that goal of at least going through the first part, what I did was I reached out to TASB, Texas Association of School Board, who conducted our last search, and asked them what would be the next steps to getting to that, just that canvassing of the community and that superintendent profile. After talking with Butch, basically, he said the process was that we would go ahead and approve the service agreement for the entire search, although we can cancel that at any time. And so to get through that community portion, that community preview or profile, is about 50% of the contract. If at that point in time we have a candidate that we've identified that is that matches that profile, and we do not need to continue, we can cancel the search at that point in time and cancel the contract, and make that appointment. And yeah, I think we're all hopeful that we can reach that point, but just in playing on the other side, that if we don't find that match, or if something doesn't happen and something doesn't work out, then we're already positioned to move forward. And so that's one of the benefits of going ahead, and we can grab that momentum and keep moving forward, of going ahead and approving the full contract. But again, at the same time, I do not see, even though it's called superintendent search, I do not, it's really focused on that profile part, that first part. That's just the name of the agreement. So, are there any questions beyond that, or did I answer, Ms. Lloyd, did I answer your questions? Or?
So the question I had was concerning the wording in section 4, warranty, on line 3. And I think I've got a better understanding of it, but because I had emailed concerning this, I wanted to bring it forth to everyone. So the wording says, it goes through, for any reason other than a family emergency, comma, TASB will perform a one-time search for travel and expenses associated with the new search. And when I read it, it just seemed like I didn't know what it meant. But my assumption and my belief now is that it's just poorly worded, and it's saying that they will come for a one-time, and we will be charged for their travel expenses, and then the expenses that are delineated later in the paragraph. I just think it was a poorly worded sentence, and when I read it, it didn't make sense.
I think it's legalese. Yes.
So do you see where my question was?
I'm getting there, I apologize.
Yeah, and I read it, and I think when I read it in the context of everything it says, I understand what it means. It just says, if a superintendent's hired under this agreement and leaves within 2 years, that they will come and do that one-time search, just adding travel and expenses associated, as opposed to having us pay a new contract amount.
Right. And that would be if we got to that point where we actually had them conduct a.
Right, well, and I can agree with that. It's just when I read it, it was just that one section was just worded in a way that did not, to me, follow the delineated list below it. But I'm comfortable with the lawyers did it definition.
I did have our WASH contract lawyer look over it.
I'm good with it.
And make sure that nothing, I think it's actually the same contract that we've used before and at the same price, so.
And I really like how those percentages are broken out through each stage of the search so that it's very clear, like where we're at and how much we would owe.
And if there's anything at all that you would like in terms of clarification, which even better than a phone call would be an email where they might just clarify that point, they'll be happy to do it. They will certainly, they're very interested in having a great reputation for service. That's a big deal to TASB, so I'm sure they would do that if you would seek out, again, a little clarification.
Go ahead.
I'm just saying, of course, I don't know that you want to do it specifically, Fran. I mean, just.
No, I'm good with it.
Yeah.
Once I understood the warranty part of it,
Yeah.
it makes a little more sense. It's just not the way I would have.
Yeah, I think it's definitely not any sort of thing where they're not going to do what they need to do, but at the same time, I know from a lot of experience that it never hurts to get a little clarification, because then if somebody later on with TASB says, oh no, that's not what it means, well you've got, oh yeah, well here's the email we got, so it's not a bad idea to get a little clarification. I'm saying, go ahead.
So, in easy speak, in layman's terms, how I read this, and I think I speak for us, we've had a lot of our educational community say they really like the way we're going, and they oftentimes want to have input to make sure that the way we're going stays somewhat in the positive direction that it has been in the last few years. And so and I don't mean this to sound negative, but this TASB will have the time, the energy, the effort to put the committees together to let us hear what the educational community, our teachers, our students, our parents have to say, and who and what type of profile they're looking for, and the same thing with the community. So I think what this is saying is we're getting them to do the legwork, which is what our community wants. And once they get to, and it could be early on, the same name may come up over and over and over again. Or if there's a glitch somewhere, they'll be able to deal with that and bring it to our attention. So I think that's what, is that kind of a layman's term on, we were talking about the contract, but that's why we are getting TASB to do this for us.
Yeah, I'm not sure that, any one single board member has the bandwidth to lead this type of search, and I don't think it would be fair right now, especially to put that back on the cabinet or anybody within the administration to lead that search. So, besides some obvious potential conflicts of interest there. And so I think TASB gives us that history. Again, we have their previous report, and we have as a the main goal is we can just see where we are, even compared to 3-4 years ago, having gone through this.
And I'm going to just reinforce something that Mr. McCall's already said, and that's that the contract, that is a great provision to have in there, that it's basically in steps, and we're not committed any further than we want to be. And they will go all the way. If we need them to go all the way, they will stop whenever we tell them to stop. Yes, we will be paying for what they've already done, but that's a great position to be in, because we won't know till after the first few stages where we think we are with regard to our options. So that's a great position to be in, and I'm very glad to see that in the agreement.
I move that the Board of Trustees approve the Executive Search Services Agreement with the Texas Association of School Boards and authorize the Board President to execute the agreement, and further delegate to the Board President the authority to cancel the agreement after consultation with the Board of Trustees.
Second.
I have a motion by Dr. Harlan and a second by Dr. Davis. If there's no further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries as moved. The board will now convene in closed session to discuss the following items as allowed by the Texas Government Code Chapter 551.072 and 551.074. No voting will take place in the closed meeting. Any action the board wishes to take as a result of discussion in closed session will take place after the board reconvenes in the open meeting. It is now 6:57. Board reconvened in open session at 7:14. No action was taken in closed session. And I believe we have one motion.
I move for the approval of the proposed resolution approving sale of the Travis Education Support Center, also known as the Old Administration Building, located at 101 North Texas Avenue, Bryan, Texas, 77803, surface estate only, to Brazos County, and all actions contemplated within the resolution and real estate sales contract through execution of the deed at closing.
Second.
Have a motion by Ms. Dwayne and a second by Dr. Harlan. There's no further discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries as moved. And if there's no further, sorry, it's a little premature there. If there's no further action, then we are adjourned.